Good night. Good night. So the electrolysis is going on, and actually I'm already curious to see some results. Even though I should say it's not a typical electrolysis chamber as the ones that I've worked on during the last couple of months, and it was documented here because originally I used the glass chambers for the electrolysis, but at some point I switched to metal chambers with large magnets on the inside and much more elaborate constructions that I don't want to get into it right now. So it's not a strong electrolysis, but still we've seen effect. A strong, by the way, the current is not that. There are all sorts of ways actually how to increase the current, by increasing the conductivity, because the mixture is very non-conductive. Yes, the neros are superconductors, but they are only small amount of the material that's inside the mixture, and most of the mixture is based on oils that are not conductive. So there's all sorts of ways to actually increase conductivity using magnets, and it's a whole kind of science and technology. But even I didn't use any of it. You've seen it. Typical result of electrolysis in the previous microscopic work, not of today, but yesterday. So I'm interested to see how what can be achieved with alternating between very high energy fire with larger amount of turpentine and also electrolysis. And I'm working on the new Starship. And as I said, we need to summon as much as possible. So not for practical reasons, but for symbolic reasons that are also important. So this will be the 13. It will be very short video. The 13th chapter in the Ziggurat of Ur. And maybe later I will actually hold the 14th chapter, in which I will continue discussion from the 12th chapter. I just wanted to, it was important for me to conduct another video now, because I recall that I I missed a very important point that maybe you understand, the audience understood it by themselves, but maybe, it should be it's important to actually speak about it, because it's incredibly cool. So, and this is the issue of the revenge, on my family. But before, it's make me so sad to actually speak about it. But very shortly, we should speak about it very shortly. And maybe later, in a couple of minutes, or after some time, we will discuss. We will continue discussing Venus. So what do you think, by the way? Actually, it's not an incredibly important question, but because most of you understood the nature of the conspiracy, in the broad terms, and that's the important issue here for now. But this question in itself, even though it's not that pertinent in order to understand the details of the conspiracy probably will never be known, and it's not incredibly important in the grand scheme of events, but it's actually interesting to speak about it, what actually the Ranger probe actually have seen, and what was actually the thing that they have seen that compelled them to change, to collate with the Russians, and to change in retrospect, to change the measurements, and to create a much harsher, kind of barrier, להט אחר ומתהפכת, the rotating sword, the fire of the scalding fire of the rotating sword, as it is described in Genesis, surrounding around planet Venus. So as I said, the correct answer is not incredibly important, because all of you that were actually you understand that you understand you had kind of you're all like, I mean, you're like, I mean, good intuition regarding, I mean, the nature of the conspiracy. But again, it's interesting because it relates to all sorts of like other issues that are incredibly interesting for many reasons that belong both to my origin story and also to my research matter, which is also, I mean, part of my origin story. So I'll speak about it in the next video. So for now, I mean, we can make like a kind of like a quiz. But many of you already answered like your answers. But I mean, maybe you can. I mean, you have until the next chapter, which will be done very soon. I mean, it's kind of like a quiz without prizes. I mean, what have they seen? Like, I mean, what have the Lone Ranger, what have they did it see on the planet? Like, what did the Americans actually saw? So before, I mean, so I need to speak about like the revenge plot. So what I've understood, and only very late in my life, is that actually in Israel it is customary to hunt the family of the traitor, like generation after that. And you don't know how many generations because the state is quite young. But I mean, yes, you can see, I mean, it's supposedly a traitor from the beginning of the 50s. I mean, and his offspring is still hunted. And maybe part of it, I mean, is kind of like, I mean, of course, this is the most horrible things in the world. I mean, they you know, they murdered his 3 years old daughter, and they ate their corpse, like, they've eaten, and this was not uncommon back in the day to actually eat children of Titan children. But I mean, can you understand? I mean, I think about my grandfather. I loved him so much, and he was such an influential figure in my life, and probably there wasn't a day in his life that he didn't think about it. And I should say that I mean, it was. I mean, if there is one thing that, I mean, if you can describe like Yaakov Vechoropoulos in one word, it will be loyalty. He was the most loyal person that I've ever met in my life. And he is the one to teach you what the meaning of loyalty. The traitor, I mean, if you want to understand what is loyalty, you need, I mean, he already died, like, I mean, like 9 or 10 years ago. But he was the person to understand the meaning of loyalty. If I hadn't met him, or if I wasn't close to him, maybe I wouldn't have like even understood the meaning of loyalty. What does it even mean, loyalty? By the way, this is one of the main themes of the novel Left Hand of Darkness, and specifically, I mean, according to the interpretation of the actual author, of Ursula Le Guin, of course. I mean, there are many interpretations, but I mean, maybe I'll speak about this novel at some other post, because I've written about it, and it's a very important novel. It's an incredibly important novel, and actually I don't even have the text of the post because I lost it. So we'll speak about it some other time. But I mean, what does it mean? If you want to understand what's loyalty, you need to go to Yaakov Vechoropoulos in heaven and to sit with him, because you can say, I mean, that he was a traitor, or you can speculate whether he was a traitor or not. But I can say, I mean, you know nothing. Like, I mean, whoever you are, I mean, if you want to understand what the meaning of loyalty, go to this person, the most loyal person that I have ever seen in my life. And this is not just an an ironical way to actually, you know, to repaint, like, I mean, the person that is, like, I mean, treated as a traitor, or like to repaint him like in a way that would be kind of like, I mean, that, I mean, will kind of like, I mean, contradict the known picture, because it was painted by cool people. It's much more practical than that. He was loyal. He was extremely loyal to his family, to members, and to his friends. Like, I mean, the ones that he considered his friends, and like, I mean, he was kind of person that, I mean, if like, I mean, he owed like someone like I don't know, 100 shekels, like, I mean, from, like, I mean, some kind of, like, a loan that was taking place in doing, like, 1950, but, I mean, we couldn't find this person. He's kind of person that, like, 50 years after that, I mean, could have, like, searched for the person and find it and repay the loan. Like, I mean, he was, like, I mean, to say that he was a man of his word is an understatement. I mean, he was the embodiment of loyalty and also of patriotism. And I if I had known him, I wouldn't never understand what the meaning of what does it even mean to be a patriot. Because I have never met a person that was more patriotic than him. And I understood that sometimes in my life, I mean, I grew up to believe that he was completely loyal to Israel in whatever he did, like in that he served in the Mossad and, you know, in the Palmach, etc., etc. And at some point in my life, I understood that before he even set foot on Israel, he was a patriot of another country, of Greece, his homeland, and he fought like in the Civil War. And he didn't even speak like word in Hebrew, and he was very detached from Judaism. And of course, there was nothing in him that was even like remotely Zionist. But he was patriotic because the patriotism is in the person, not in the in the country. To love the place that you live in and to be attached to it is something that is in the person, not in the place. So after he was forced to leave Greece because, I mean, they lost, I mean, circumstances that they lost in his side, I mean, they lost in the Civil War. He had to leave. So he had to build a new life, and the only place that was possible was in Israel. And yes, I mean, he became completely patriot. And part of it was the things that he had done. You don't know what is loyalty if you don't know Yaakov Echoropoulos, my grandfather. What does it mean to be loyal? And I mean, maybe it's a matter of time to speak about like how he treated his grandchildren and how he loved his grandchildren. I mean, and what the things that he's done for his mentally ill Titan grandchild. I mean, Inon, my older brother that immediately committed suicide, like many Titans that drove to insanity. And the thing that he's done for him, and he was already an old man, and I mean, a sick person, and old man, and yet, I mean, until his death, I mean, he done so much to him. Like, I mean, he gave everything that he could to be loyal in, I mean, in an unbelievable way. But of course, according to the Israelis, he was a traitor, and they tried to kill him, and he was rescued by kind of like divine intervention. And after that, he was hated. I mean, he was protected supposedly by the Americans. But among the Israelis, I mean, they have a solution for this issue of like how to treat traitors that are protected by, I mean, by a superpower. Because both superpowers always maintain like very high presence here. I mean, the Russians more so in the beginning, and the Americans not that much, but later the American also, I mean, became very prominent in the Middle East. I mean, it was started, I mean, mostly in the late 50s after the Suez crisis, and became, and only during the 70s, I mean, the Americans actually kind of like, I mean, took Israel as kind of like their 51st state, and tried, I mean, kind of like they in a way they did to Israel, I mean, during the 70s, things that they've done like to all sort of like banana republics in South America, I mean, during the 20th century. But I mean, so the solution for the Israelis is I mean, that they hunt the offspring, and they give them like, I mean, so all their offspring, I mean, if they are not murdered, they have kind of like, I mean, kind of like an age limit of 38. and that's like the default. And presumably they can get more life if they serve the Israeli intelligence, but in order to do so, they must be pedophiles and homosexuals. Otherwise, they cannot even like be accepted into the ranks of these organizations. And even that is not enough. Like, it wasn't enough for my father. And then, yeah, you have like all these offspring, and the offspring of, I mean, presumably to forever, or I don't know to what, I mean, point. They have kind of like a life limit. Of course, if they are Titan females, it's a different story, because they are used for the drug. They are kind of like properties, you understand. It's a different issue. But for males, I mean, the age limit is 38. And by the way, this is why when I was 38, I mean, this is why when I was hired in Hermetic, the last place where I worked, like as a software engineer, this is why, I mean, they sort of it as a short-term employment, because they thought that I'm going to be like murdered like very soon, because I was, I mean, approaching the age of 38 when I was hired there. So they thought, I mean, maybe just, I mean, use me, like, I mean, sexually abuse me, and by I mean, and all, like, I mean, like very sick situation with Sivan Kriegsman, and again, I've never touched her in my life, and she lied, and in such a horrible way, and it was such a horrible abuse. But from their perspective, it doesn't. All of this didn't matter. I mean, whatever. Who cares? I mean, if I'm abused or not, because they thought that I'm either way. And then I was fired in very disgusting circumstances with also, I mean, completely false rumors. And after that, I didn't work again, and I didn't make money. So I had I mean, and yes, now I'm penniless. I don't have any money, because I didn't. After I was fired from Hermetic, I didn't work again, like as a salary, because I understood it. I mean, wherever I will go, I will be like a whore. They will, I mean, the Shabak, I mean, controls my employment, and they want me to be their whore. So I was fired in a very disgusting way, but from their perspective, like, I remember that, I mean, maybe like a couple of months, 2 months after I was fired, like, I actually contacted like the secretary. Her name was Ifat something, Ifat Sobel maybe. Like, I wanted to get, like, I mean, forms from her, like, for that I needed, like, I mean, for like, I mean, you know, bureaucracy. And she was, I mean, she was so, I mean, she was I mean, it was demonstrated that, I mean, she was actually surprised that I'm alive, because they saw that, I mean, yes, when I'm approaching 38, and this was exactly, I mean, right after they fired me, they thought, yeah, I mean, so, I mean, he will be murdered by the Israeli intelligence, because, I mean, it is known that he is like an offspring of a traitor, and he didn't do anything to mitigate his situation. So, I mean, he reached his time limit, so now it's time to die. And of course, the way to do it is using the method, like, I mean, the conditioning, like, that they supposedly implement on all their subjects, including, of course, myself. And this includes all sort of like hypnotic method that they implant on you, like, since you are a child, and also, you know, the sound detect, the kind of like, I mean, the non-stop, like, I mean, subliminal sound that you hear from, like, I've stopped talking about it like a couple of days ago, that I'm kind of, you are addicted to the sound, and if you stop using it, if you like, I mean, and when you are outside your I mean, apartment, or like, I mean, like your workplace, I mean, it can only be played from your cellular device, and it wouldn't play without the SIM card. So if you are outside and you break the SIM card, it's kind of like a suicide from their perspective. And I've done it many times for all sorts of reasons. And I understood it by, I mean, all those kind of like acts. And again, as I said, I am immune to this. It doesn't make me crazy or reset me or anyway. Just, I mean, kind of like a withdrawal that, I mean, for last, like, I mean, it's actually much milder than like a serious hangover, or like, I mean, withdrawal from like speed drugs like Ritalin or like Adderall. It's really not big of a deal for me, at least. I don't know how. I mean, maybe for others it's completely different. But I mean, I like it was. I mean, withdrawal. I mean, I withdrawal for. I went through the withdrawal from this like subliminal music, and then again addicted to it again and again, dozens of times. Anyway, they use this method and the hypnotic method to make you kill yourself or become insane, and then hospitalized in mental institution forever, and then kill yourself. And of course, they have other ways to murder you, all of which are kind of a covert with like electricity and sound. And these actions do not only, supposedly work on titans. They also, almost all of it is applicable to humans. I mean, even more so, like even with more effectiveness. So I'm now approaching 40. So from their perspective, it's almost two years over time that that they don't understand why I insist on like staying alive. Not because I'm a titan, that I'm not, but because I am an offspring of a traitor, a grandchild of a traitor, and my life is limited to 38. No more, unless I've served my country, which means I have done all sorts of like very nasty stuff for the intelligence services, and I haven't done anything for them because I was never part of it. So I have not like received in any privileges that can presumably prolong my life. So it's almost 2 years over time. This is the state of Israel. This is the state of Israel. This is the state of Israel.